Friday is Jobs Day, and tell me what you're looking forward to seeing.
You know, roughly 200,000 or so, what we've been seeing much of this year. Honestly, I'm more interested in tomorrow's number, jobless claims, because jobless claims tells you what happened through last week, and it's telling you what happens at all across America, in every corner of America, small businesses, large businesses, wherever you live. I'm seeing in that number what's happening to people all across the country. In the payroll numbers on Friday, they have to make guesses about what's going on with small businesses, so you don't really know for a while what's really going on. But the trend in jobless claims has been quite spectacular. It's been very steady. It tells you the economy is humming. There's no problem somewhere. You look at some areas and there are little signs of stress. Other areas we don't see very much. And I think that's the beautiful thing about jobless claims is they tell you about everything that's going on in the economy. It's very comprehensive and very timely.
And what do you think about the overall unemployment number right now?
You know, we're getting there. I sort of view, the picture looks to me like we're in the top of the ninth inning in terms of getting back to full employment. The unemployment rate doesn't capture everybody who's unemployed, doesn't capture all those folks who are working part-time involuntarily. They're considered employed, so they're not in there. And all the young folks who dropped out, went back to school, pick up some more training, they're not in there. And there's about 1.7 million people who are still out of the market, but they are coming back. And as the job market does better, they're coming back. So that's why we're seeing steady, solid gains month after month, even though the unemployment rate is at a low level.
And we're not seeing, we're seeing openings and not a ton of unemployment, but there seems to be some sort of gap. And do you believe the skills gap story, or do you think people need to pay more?
No, I mean, if they need to, they will. I mean, you're gonna, if you've got business you can do by having somebody on board, you're gonna pay them. And I think it's not a surprise that we're seeing the skills gap because frankly, as a result of innovation over the last couple of decades, we've innovated out about 8 million jobs in the manufacturing sector. We've got a lot of people in the country who are moving to retirement. So there's a lot of need to fill jobs that people used to do. So it's not a mystery to me why we're hearing people say they can't find people with the right skills. And I think a lot of kids grew up in the last couple of decades being told by mom and dad that there's no point in going into manufacturing because all manufacturing is going to Beijing. Come to find out that's not really true. And the problem is to have the skills that folks want, you've got to sort of learn some math in grade school, and you've got to learn a lot of skills in shop classes that no longer exist in high schools. So it takes time for us to reorient. But I'll tell you, when you travel around, there's a lot of interesting programs going on in community colleges. So if you go to Miami-Dade or Central Florida University, there's folks there, they realize there's a need for this, and there's a lot of programs being developed for teaching people specific skills. So I think we won't be talking much about this 10 years from now. It just happens, we happen to live in a time when there's a lot of shifts going on. And there's a lot of need, and the economy is basically back on its feet, so there's a need for this. So I really think there is a real skills gap, and my guess is when you look at the areas where people do have the skills, the pay trends are pretty good. Technology, in those areas where people have the skills.
And so the people that are not in the workforce right now, the underemployed, the people whose parents are helping subsidize, the millennials.
Hopefully they're in school.
Hopefully they're in school. What impact is their delayed sort of development having on the economy?
Yeah, you know, it's had a big effect. It shows up in the housing industry. It's showing up in the auto industry. People are postponing life decisions. You get married later, you start a household later. So what that means is you're probably working jobs in the city where you don't need a car. You're not buying a car if you're still living with parents. I'm buying a house if you're still living with parents. So a lot of things that we look to that normally happen when you have recovery, it's just not happening. And I think it will. It's just that everything's being pushed out. And you know, if it sort of lines up with our country, life expectancies have been rising also. So you work, you're going to have a longer work span in your life. You retire later in life. There's a lot of things that we do are just being pushed out. And so if you're in the home building industry, you're touched by this. If you're in the auto industry, you're going to see more car sales down the road when millennials start raising families. Some of them move to suburbs. It's pretty tough unless you're in New York City or Chicago if you don't have a car. Pretty tough.